Good morning, everyone. There is a quiet power in the way a day begins. The first hours of the morning hold energy that is raw, untamed, and full of potential. Before the world's noise rushes in, before distractions claim our attention, there exists a window of clarity, a moment where the mind is fresh, the body is alert, and the spirit is receptive. How we use that energy determines the trajectory of every hour that follows. Morning energy is not measured by speed or exertion. It is measured by intention, by the discipline to rise with purpose, and by the courage to claim control over one's own time. Those who master this energy do not react to the day, they shape it. They move with precision, they think with clarity, and they act with alignment. To rise intentionally is to declare ownership over life itself. A person who wakes without plan or purpose drifts, distracted by obligation or whim. Their energy dissipates in fragments, scattered by circumstance. A person who wakes with structure, with deliberate ritual, channels that same energy into focus, strength, and momentum. Movement, breath, reflection, and preparation in those early hours create a foundation for action that carries through the day. It is not about extremes. It is not about forcing heroics before sunrise. It is about harnessing what is already present, directing it toward clarity, and allowing momentum to grow naturally. Morning energy is the spark, and it is our responsibility to light the fire with intention. Yet the morning alone is not enough. The day will test us, challenge us, and scatter our focus. Without conscious conclusion, the momentum we build will falter. This is where evening practice becomes essential. The evening is often mistaken for rest, for distraction, for escape. But true evening practice is refinement, reflection, and restoration. It is the moment when the day is examined, not to punish, but to understand. The actions we took, the decisions we made, the energy we expended, all are reviewed, corrected, and integrated. The evening is when lessons are absorbed, weaknesses addressed, and alignment restored. It is a calm forge where the day's raw material is transformed into knowledge, skill, and strength. Evening practice does not demand intensity, yet it requires attention. A few moments of quiet reflection, gentle movement, or deliberate review are enough to consolidate the day's gains. The body is restored, the mind is cleared, and the spirit finds stillness. Those who ignore this practice surrender continuity. They carry chaos into the next day, fatigue into every action, and distraction into every decision. Those who honor it carry mastery forward. The evening, like the morning, is a deliberate choice. It is the act of saying to oneself, today mattered, and tomorrow will be built from the wisdom and energy of today. The cycle of morning energy and evening practice is a rhythm of power. The morning ignites potential. The evening consolidates it. The day in between is where life unfolds, where decisions are made, and where effort is applied. Without morning energy, the day drifts without direction. Without evening practice, the day collapses without reflection. Together, they create a flow, a cycle, a momentum that is sustainable, deliberate, and transformative. This is not a formula for fleeting success. It is a principle for mastery, resilience, and presence. When these two forces are honored, life begins to feel different. The mind is sharper, decisions are clearer, and energy is preserved rather than wasted. Action becomes intentional, not reactive. Growth becomes inevitable, because the day is no longer a series of accidents. It is a series of deliberate choices guided by clarity, discipline, and reflection. The person who lives this way does not chase productivity or inspiration. They cultivate it. They rise with purpose, they act with focus, and they rest with understanding. Morning energy and evening practice are the bookends of a life well lived. One sparks action, the other sharpens insight. One fuels ambition, the other cultivates wisdom. Together, they create not only momentum but authority over self, mastery over time, and alignment between intention and action. To honor them is to honor the day, the self, and the potential that exists quietly in every moment. Energy follows structure. It is a principle that quietly governs every aspect of our life, yet most people live in contradiction to it. Think for a moment about the way a river flows. A river does not carve its path randomly. It follows the contours, the boundaries, the channels that have been shaped over time. Where the path is clear and structured, the water moves fast, strong, and purposeful. Where the path is chaotic, scattered, or blocked, the water becomes turbulent, slow, and loses its momentum. So too is human energy. The mind, the body, and the spirit all require structure, a guiding framework, to channel the immense potential that exists within them. Without structure, energy dissipates. Without boundaries, vitality leaks. Without deliberate patterns, focus becomes fragmented, motivation wavers, and action loses precision. The morning is where this principle becomes most visible. Consider the state of a person who wakes without a plan, without routine, without structure. Their energy is reactive rather than intentional. They move from task to task, thought to thought, like a leaf caught in the wind. Their body wakes up, but their mind remains scattered. Their energy exists, but it is disorganized, unfocused, and inefficient. Now contrast that with someone who rises with a pattern, a ritual, a structure. Even if the ritual is simple, a few moments of stretching, deep breathing, mindful reflection, or disciplined movement, their energy has direction. They are not at the mercy of circumstance. They become the master of their own vitality. Energy follows structure because structure is the frame that gives the energy purpose and trajectory. Without it, even the strongest force becomes aimless. Even the most talented individual, without structure, will exhaust themselves chasing fragments of opportunity, inspiration, or ambition. Structure is not about rigidity or monotony. It is not about living as if on autopilot, repeating the same actions mechanically. True structure is intentional. It creates patterns that support your goals, align with your values, and allow your natural energy to flourish. When a person wakes with structure, their morning energy is not just physical, it is mental and emotional as well. The mind moves clearly because it knows the first tasks, the body moves fluidly because it has already been primed, and the spirit is steady because it has been anchored to a sense of purpose. The energy that results is focused, efficient, and resilient. It is not wasted on indecision, hesitation, or distraction. Energy follows structure because the framework organizes it. Without structure, energy splinters. With structure, it becomes a powerful force that propels action. Evening is the complement to morning structure. If the morning is about harnessing energy, the evening is about directing and refining it. A day without evening structure is like a river flowing without boundaries. It loses force, leaks into useless directions, and fails to nourish the banks it passes. By reflecting, stretching, reviewing, and calming oneself in the evening, energy is preserved and consolidated. The body is restored, the mind is cleared, and the spirit is fortified. Even small practices in the evening, repeated consistently, create a framework that guides energy into the next day. Energy follows structure because structure does not merely organize the present, it accumulates momentum, building a rhythm that strengthens day after day. The cycle of structured morning and evening practice ensures that energy is not a fleeting resource, but a cultivated force. The principle extends beyond the daily routine into work, learning, relationships, and personal growth. A person who works without structure often finds their energy drained by inefficiency, distraction, and indecision. Projects remain unfinished, thoughts remain scattered, and potential remains unfulfilled. But with structure, clear priorities, defined goals, and deliberate time allocation, energy becomes directed. Work flows smoothly, attention sharpens, and output increases. Learning follows the same rule. Without structured study or deliberate practice, energy is wasted on scattered, inconsistent effort. With structure, focus is enhanced, comprehension deepens, and retention grows. Even relationships benefit from structure. Regular, meaningful interaction creates emotional stability and strength. Energy follows structure because it is natural for vitality to respond to clear patterns and frameworks. When the path is defined, the force moves efficiently, purposefully, and powerfully. Discipline is the bridge between energy and structure. Energy alone is volatile and inconsistent. Structure alone is empty unless it channels vitality. Discipline ensures that structure is followed, that the framework is maintained even when enthusiasm wanes or obstacles appear. It is discipline that converts potential energy into productive force. Without it, mornings become chaotic, evenings become wasted, and life drifts. With discipline, energy flows in alignment with structure, producing remarkable momentum. Even small acts, repeated consistently, a deliberate rise, a focused workout, a mindful reflection, a purposeful conversation, accumulate over time. They transform scattered energy into power, frustration into mastery, and fleeting motivation into sustainable growth. Energy follows structure because vitality needs guidance, and guidance requires intention. Structure is the invisible hand that channels force, the lens that focuses light, the mold that shapes potential into reality. Master the morning, shape the day. These words are more than advice. They are a principle that defines the rhythm of achievement, the flow of energy, and the structure of a life lived intentionally. The morning is the quietest, yet the most powerful part of the day. It is the moment before the world's noise rushes in, before the obligations, interruptions, and demands of others claim attention. What is done in the morning sets the tone for every hour that follows. If the first moments are wasted in distraction, indecision, or sluggishness, the energy for the rest of the day is fractured. If the morning is seized with clarity, intention, and purposeful action, the day aligns itself with that force, moving fluidly and productively. Mastering the morning is not about waking early for the sake of it, nor about performing arbitrary rituals. It is about establishing control over the first hours, ensuring that the mind, body, and spirit are aligned and ready to navigate whatever comes. To master the morning, one must begin with preparation. Evening habits determine morning readiness. A chaotic evening filled with unfinished tasks, restless thoughts, or passive distractions creates a turbulent morning. A structured evening, on the other hand, sets the stage for clarity and focus. Sleep, reflection, planning, and intentional rest are not passive states, they are active cultivation of the morning to come. When a person rises, they should already have a sense of purpose, a plan of action, and an awareness of the energy they intend to channel. The first movements, the first thoughts, the first breaths are not incidental, they are the launch pad for everything that follows. A disciplined morning practice, whether it is physical exercise, meditation, journaling, or simple preparation for the day, creates a flow of energy that carries forward. Energy that is guided in the early hours is focused and precise, while energy that is neglected becomes scattered and reactive. The mind is the first territory to master in the morning. Before responding to emails, notifications, or obligations, the mind should be anchored in clarity and intention. Reflection, planning, and prioritization are not optional. They are the tools through which the day is shaped. When the mind is organized and purposeful, decision-making becomes efficient, creativity emerges more easily, and distractions lose their power. A morning spent in mental mastery is a morning spent building the architecture of the day. Without this foundation, even the most productive actions later in the day become reactive, fragmented, and prone to error. Structure in thought creates energy that is directed. Without it, even hours of activity can pass with little progress or satisfaction. The body is equally critical in mastering the morning. Physical movement, even in small doses, ignites energy, awakens alertness, and stabilizes emotional state. A stretch, a run, a series of exercises, or a simple walk in the fresh air activates the body's systems, preparing it to meet the demands of the day. When the body is engaged early, lethargy, fatigue, and mental fog are minimized. The body, like the mind, responds to structure. A morning routine that incorporates physical readiness ensures that energy is not only present but functional. It allows the individual to act with precision, endurance, and confidence, rather than reacting sluggishly or inefficiently. Mastering the morning requires attention to the vessel through which all action flows. The morning is also a time for cultivating focus, discipline, and intention in ways that carry through the day. Habits formed in the first hours are often the most enduring because the mind has not yet been scattered by the events of the day. A small commitment, reading, writing, planning, or reflection, becomes a compound force when practiced consistently. Morning discipline is not about rigidity, it is about ownership. It is the conscious decision to shape one's energy, attention, and effort rather than leaving it to circumstance. Mastery in these early hours creates momentum that influences decisions, interactions, and actions long after the morning has passed. The individual who masters the morning moves through the day with a quiet authority, a sense of control, and the ability to respond rather than react. Even the smallest moments in the morning carry weight. The choice to wake intentionally, to avoid mindless scrolling, to engage in movement, to reflect, or to plan, sets in motion a chain reaction that determines the quality of the day. Energy that is organized and directed early multiplies. Energy that is scattered diminishes. Mastery of the morning is not merely about productivity. It is about aligning one's life with purpose. It ensures that actions are not random, that decisions are intentional, and that momentum builds rather than dissipates. A morning well lived carries a sense of accomplishment and control into every interaction, every task, and every challenge that follows. It is a declaration that the individual is in command of their life, even when the world seeks to pull them off course. The principle extends beyond routines to mindset. A person who masters the morning cultivates awareness, presence, and gratitude. They recognize that the day is a series of choices, each shaped by the energy and focus cultivated in the first hours. The morning is an opportunity to define priorities, to clarify intentions, and to commit to the actions that matter most. By taking ownership of these early moments, the individual ensures that energy is not wasted on trivialities or distractions. Instead, it is directed toward creation, growth, and meaningful achievement. Mastering the morning transforms potential into reality, chaos into order, and lethargy into momentum, providing the foundation for the day to unfold with clarity, strength, and purpose. Practice is a daily commitment, not a mood. This simple truth is one of the most overlooked principles of mastery, yet it quietly separates those who achieve from those who only aspire. Most people approach practice as if it were a matter of inspiration, waiting for the perfect moment, the ideal feeling, or the surge of motivation. They believe that passion will guide them, that excitement will carry them through, or that a sudden burst of energy is necessary to act. But the reality is very different. Practice is not dictated by mood. It is dictated by discipline. It is an agreement with oneself to show up, to engage, and to improve, regardless of how one feels in the moment. Motivation is fickle, moods are fleeting, and feelings change with the weather of the mind. Commitment, on the other hand, is steadfast, deliberate, and enduring. Mastery is built not by waiting for the perfect emotional state, but by consistently showing up when it is least convenient, least exciting, or least comfortable. Every day presents countless excuses not to practice. The body may feel tired, the mind distracted, responsibilities may weigh heavily, or circumstances may appear unfavorable. Yet the essence of daily practice is precisely in choosing to act despite these obstacles. Commitment transforms resistance into action. It is the understanding that growth, skill, and resilience are cumulative. Each repetition, each session, each disciplined effort, even when performed reluctantly, adds a layer of strength and refinement that compounds over time. The person who treats practice as a matter of mood will often start strongly, flourish when inspired, and falter when tired or distracted. The person who treats practice as a commitment, however, builds an unshakable foundation. Their energy may fluctuate, their feelings may vary, but their actions remain steady. This consistency is what transforms raw potential into capability, ambition into achievement, and intention into reality. Practice is also an act of patience and humility. It requires the acknowledgement that mastery is not instant, that progress is often slow, and that results are rarely immediate. Those who depend on mood are often seeking validation or immediate satisfaction. They want practice to feel good, to be enjoyable, or to provide a sense of accomplishment in the short term. But true practice is deeper than enjoyment. It is the quiet, sometimes tedious repetition of fundamental actions that form the roots of skill and character. The daily commitment ensures that even when progress feels invisible, when improvement is imperceptible, the process continues. Every session, no matter how small or difficult, strengthens the body, sharpens the mind, and cultivates resilience. Practice as a mood is inconsistent. Practice as a commitment is transformative. The principle extends to all areas of life. In physical training, waiting for motivation to strike rarely leads to lasting strength or endurance. The body improves through repeated effort, through showing up even when tired, through consistent focus on fundamentals rather than occasional bursts of intensity. In intellectual pursuits, learning is rarely the product of inspiration alone. Knowledge grows through structured study, persistent questioning, and deliberate repetition. In creative work, ideas flourish not only in bursts of passion, but in the disciplined act of creation, revision, and refinement every day. In relationships, connection deepens not when feelings are perfect or moods align, but through consistent attention, empathy, and engagement. Daily practice is the common thread that underpins mastery, resilience, and meaningful achievement, regardless of field or endeavor. Resistance, boredom, and discomfort are natural companions of practice. They are not signs to stop, but signals that growth is occurring. Mood will never guarantee progress. It may encourage indulgence, distraction, or inconsistency. Commitment, however, creates structure and discipline that allow a person to move forward even when feelings resist. By embracing the discomfort, showing up consistently, and adhering to a daily routine, an individual builds not only skill but character. They cultivate patience, perseverance, and an inner authority that is unshaken by external circumstances or internal fluctuations. Over time, the accumulation of these daily efforts compounds in ways that are invisible in the moment but undeniable in hindsight. The person who practices daily becomes unstoppable not because they are always motivated, but because they are always committed. Practice also teaches the relationship between effort and mastery. Mood-driven action is erratic. It produces bursts of energy followed by long periods of stagnation. Commitment-driven action is cumulative. It produces slow, steady growth that is reliable and predictable. This reliability is critical because real achievement requires endurance. Talent alone cannot sustain progress over years, nor can sporadic inspiration carry someone through challenges, failures, or setbacks. Daily practice, grounded in commitment, ensures that the individual continues to advance even when external recognition is absent, even when the task feels repetitive or tedious, and even when the immediate results are invisible. Practice, performed daily, becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. The more one shows up, the stronger the habit becomes. The stronger the habit, the easier it is to maintain. The easier it is to maintain, the greater the results over time. Mood has no influence over this process because commitment is stronger than emotion. The mindset that separates those who succeed from those who merely try is this practice is a daily commitment, not a mood. It is a vow to oneself to engage in the work required, to face resistance, and to prioritize consistency over excitement. It is an understanding that greatness is forged through small, deliberate actions repeated tirelessly. It is the recognition that emotions will fluctuate, motivation will come and go, but the person who commits to the process every day builds mastery that cannot be undone. Each repetition, each session, each effort, whether it feels enjoyable or not, is a brick in the foundation of skill, resilience, and purpose. Mastery does not wait for perfect conditions, ideal moods, or emotional readiness. It is constructed day by day, practice by practice, effort by effort. Evening is for refinement, not escape. The day does not simply end. It arrives at a crossroads where energy, choices, and reflection converge. For most people, evening is synonymous with relaxation, distraction, or withdrawal. It is the time when screens light up, social obligations take precedence, and attention drifts toward anything that removes the mind from the reality of the day. Yet the evening is far more than an opportunity to disengage. It is a critical juncture, a time to consolidate the lessons of the day, sharpen understanding, and prepare oneself for the challenges that lie ahead. To treat the evening as mere escape is to squander one of the most valuable hours for personal growth. Refinement requires intention. Escape requires nothing. When the day is allowed to conclude without reflection or practice, energy dissipates, learning is lost, and momentum falters. When the evening is approached with purpose, it becomes a bridge between what was and what can be, a time to correct errors, solidify progress, and align the mind, body, and spirit. The concept of refinement is subtle but profound. It is not about dramatic gestures or sudden revelations. It is about careful attention to detail, quiet evaluation of actions, and deliberate adjustment. The evening offers a unique advantage in this regard because the external demands of the day have diminished, creating a space for introspection and self-assessment. The person who uses the evening for refinement engages with questions that are often overlooked in the rush of daytime activity. What went well today? Where did I falter? How could my focus, effort, or behavior have been more precise? What patterns emerged that require attention or adjustment? By taking the time to examine these questions, the evening becomes a laboratory for self-improvement, a rehearsal space where errors are corrected, skills are honed, and understanding deepens. Each evening spent in mindful refinement compounds into clarity, competence, and resilience that carry forward into every subsequent day. Evening refinement is also about physical and mental reset. The body carries the stress, fatigue, and tension of the day, and the mind carries scattered thoughts, incomplete tasks, and unresolved concerns. To escape into passive entertainment or distraction may provide temporary relief, but it does nothing to restore, recharge, or enhance. Structured evening practices, stretching, meditation, journaling, or focused review allow the body to release tension, the mind to clarify priorities, and the spirit to regain alignment. The evening becomes a sanctuary where one restores order internally, rather than chasing fleeting amusement externally. It is a conscious decision to take control of the end of the day, to ensure that energy is preserved and sharpened rather than dissipated. The person who approaches evening in this way builds resilience, focus, and capacity that cannot be gained through avoidance or passive indulgence. The practice of refinement extends beyond personal evaluation. It includes the deliberate strengthening of skills and capabilities. Small, consistent actions in the evening, reviewing work, practicing a craft, revisiting a physical routine, or deepening understanding through study, accumulate over time. This accumulation is invisible in the moment, but unmistakable over months and years. Escape, in contrast, provides no accumulation. It offers instant gratification and temporary relief, but it leaves potential untapped and progress stalled. The evening is therefore not a reward for the day's labor. It is an essential component of mastery. It is where knowledge, skill, and insight are consolidated, where mistakes are corrected, and where preparation for tomorrow becomes possible. Those who use evening as escape may feel temporary comfort, but they forfeit the quiet power and momentum that come from deliberate refinement. Evening refinement also sharpens the mind's perception. Daily life is full of noise, distractions, and reactive decisions. The evening, approached with intention, allows for observation without interference. By reflecting on actions, reviewing interactions, and analyzing choices, patterns become visible. Weaknesses that were overlooked during the active hours can be addressed, strengths can be identified and reinforced, and priorities can be clarified. This mental clarity translates into more focused decisions, greater discipline, and higher efficiency the following day. Escape, by contrast, clouds perception, dulls awareness, and encourages avoidance of responsibility. Those who treat the evening as a time for refinement build foresight, insight, and judgment, all of which compound into competence and confidence over time. The emotional aspect of evening refinement is equally critical. The day often leaves behind frustration, impatience, or distraction. Without deliberate reflection, these emotions accumulate, leading to fatigue, irritability, and decreased effectiveness. Refinement in the evening includes addressing emotional residue, acknowledging reactions, understanding triggers, and resolving internal conflict. This practice not only restores balance, but also strengthens emotional resilience. By contrast, escape delays engagement with these challenges, allowing unresolved emotions to fester and influence subsequent days. The evening is the opportunity to transform emotional clutter into clarity, to convert scattered feelings into deliberate understanding, and to ensure that the energy carried forward is constructive rather than reactive. Evening is also the place where intention meets preparation. The person who refines at night plans for tomorrow. Tasks are organized, priorities are clarified, and the mind is aligned with goals. By doing so, the morning energy is no longer spent on confusion or indecision. Instead, the day begins with focus and momentum, guided by the groundwork laid in the previous evening. Escape postpones preparation, leaving the next day vulnerable to distraction, stress, and wasted energy. Refinement, on the other hand, ensures continuity, alignment, and growth, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of improvement that accumulates quietly but inexorably over time. The evening, when used wisely, becomes a strategic tool in the architecture of personal mastery, shaping outcomes in ways that are not immediately visible, but profoundly effective. Balance intensity with stillness. It is a principle that applies to every aspect of life, yet it is one that is often ignored in favor of extremes. Many people mistake intensity for productivity, passion, or strength, believing that the harder they push, the further they advance. Others mistake stillness for inactivity, laziness, or avoidance, thinking that doing nothing means accomplishing nothing. But the truth is far more subtle. True effectiveness, growth, and mastery emerge not from constant action or endless effort, but from the careful integration of intense action and deliberate stillness. Intensity provides momentum, energy, and progress. Stillness provides clarity, recovery, and reflection. One without the other leads to imbalance, inefficiency, and depletion. The person who understands this balance does not burn out under relentless pressure, nor stagnate under inaction. They harness the force of effort, while preserving the power of calm, allowing every action to be purposeful, precise, and sustainable. Intensity without stillness is often chaotic. A person who pushes relentlessly, working without pause, moving without reflection, may achieve short-term results, but at the cost of sustainability. The mind becomes overwhelmed, the body fatigued, and the spirit strained. Decisions are rushed, attention scatters, and energy is squandered. Progress may appear rapid, but it is fragile, dependent on continuous exertion and unrelenting momentum. Without the counterbalance of stillness, intensity becomes reactive rather than intentional, producing noise instead of meaning. The very force that drives achievement can turn against the individual, leading to mistakes, frustration, and eventual burnout. Intensity is a powerful tool, but it must be guided, moderated, and complemented by stillness to reach its true potential. Stillness without intensity is equally limiting. A life lived in quiet contemplation, avoidance of challenges, or passive observation produces a calm exterior but little tangible growth. The mind may be clear, the emotions steady, and the body rested, but without the engagement of effort, skills do not sharpen, ideas do not materialize, and ambitions remain unrealized. Stillness is not inherently passive, but it becomes ineffective when it exists in isolation from deliberate action. Reflection, meditation, or rest are valuable, but they gain meaning only when they prepare the individual for purposeful intensity. The person who lingers in stillness, without action, misses the opportunity to convert insight into progress, potential into results, and intention into accomplishment. Balance requires the coupling of stillness with action, reflection with exertion, and calm with effort, so that each complements and strengthens the other. The rhythm of balance can be observed in nature. Consider the cycle of day and night. The sun rises, bringing energy, movement, and intensity to the world. Plants grow, animals hunt, rivers flow, and humans act. Then comes night, a period of stillness, restoration, and reflection. Without night, the day would burn endlessly, exhausting resources and leaving the system in chaos. Without day, the night would be dormant and purposeless. Life itself thrives in the alternating pattern of activity and rest. Humans are no different. Our most effective growth occurs when we recognize the natural rhythm between intensity and stillness, using both strategically rather than reacting impulsively to the pressures of circumstance. Just as the world requires cycles, so too does personal energy require phases of exertion and repose. Balance also applies to mental and emotional energy. Intensity fuels focus, creativity, and ambition, but it can also magnify anxiety, impatience, and impulsivity. Stillness offers perspective, emotional regulation, and insight. A person who alternates between the two, who works with focus and pauses for reflection, experiences clarity and control. They are able to assess their progress, adjust strategies, and approach challenges with precision. In contrast, ignoring stillness results in scattered thinking, reactive decisions, and emotional volatility. Ignoring intensity results in indecision, procrastination, and stagnation. Balance is not a compromise or a midpoint, it is the conscious orchestration of complementary forces to produce maximum effectiveness, resilience, and well-being. In practice, balancing intensity with stillness requires self-awareness and discipline. It demands the recognition of personal limits, the timing of effort, and the intentional design of rest. The morning may be devoted to high-intensity focus, physical exertion, or ambitious work, while the evening may be reserved for reflection, meditation, or gentle movement. Within a single task, moments of intense concentration are interspersed with brief pauses for recalibration. Even in relationships, one can alternate between passionate engagement and quiet observation, listening, and empathy. Mastery of any skill, craft, or discipline depends not on relentless action alone, but on the integration of intensity with stillness, action with reflection, and drive with patience. The benefits of this balance compound over time. Intense effort, when paired with stillness, produces deeper insight, more sustainable energy, and greater precision. Stillness, when paired with intensity, is enriched with purpose, clarity, and direction. The person who achieves this harmony experiences growth that is both rapid and enduring, avoiding the extremes of burnout and stagnation. Each phase supports the other. Intensity sharpens skills and tests limits, while stillness consolidates learning, restores energy, and clarifies priorities. This dynamic balance becomes a foundation not only for personal achievement, but also for mental stability, emotional resilience, and spiritual equilibrium. It allows the individual to act decisively when necessary, to pause strategically when required, and to live in alignment with both effort and presence. Balance between intensity and stillness is not easily maintained, because life constantly tests the extremes. Demands may call for extended periods of effort, or circumstances may encourage prolonged retreat. Yet the principle remains: the greatest mastery occurs not in extremes but in integration. By learning to oscillate between forceful action and deliberate calm, the individual harnesses the full spectrum of human capacity. Each decision, each movement, each thought is more powerful because it is tempered by awareness. Energy flows efficiently, momentum is sustained, and focus remains sharp. The oscillation between intensity and stillness becomes a rhythm that guides growth, sharpens skill, and cultivates resilience, ensuring that the individual does not merely survive the pressures of life, but thrives within them. Consistency builds inner authority. It is one of the most powerful yet underappreciated principles in life. Many people confuse authority with position, recognition, or external power, but true authority arises internally, quietly, through repeated effort, deliberate action, and the unwavering alignment of intention and behavior. It is forged not in moments of intensity or brilliance, but in the daily, often unseen, choices that define character, skill, and presence. When someone consistently shows up, follows through, and honors commitments to themselves and others, they cultivate a form of authority that cannot be borrowed, bought, or imposed. It becomes an unshakable center from which confidence, influence, and resilience naturally radiate. The foundation of inner authority is discipline. Discipline is not an external imposition, but a personal agreement to act in alignment with values and goals, regardless of feelings, circumstances, or distractions. Consistency is the expression of that discipline. It is easy to perform admirably when circumstances are favorable, when energy is high, or when inspiration strikes. It is far more meaningful to perform reliably when fatigue sets in, when obstacles appear, or when motivation falters. Each instance of showing up, especially under difficulty, strengthens the internal structure of authority. Over time, these repeated actions create a quiet force, a self-assurance that does not rely on external validation. Authority built through consistency is earned and reinforced daily, becoming a natural aspect of identity rather than a temporary or situational trait. Consistency also sharpens skill and competence. Talent or intelligence alone may open doors temporarily, but mastery is achieved through persistent effort. A person who practices, studies, trains, or hones their craft consistently develops capabilities that are durable and reliable. The repetition of small, deliberate actions compounds over time, producing a depth of knowledge, expertise, and precision that is unmistakable. Authority emerges naturally when others recognize the reliability of skill, the steadiness of performance, and the predictability of competence. In this sense, consistency is not merely about routine, it is about the deliberate accumulation of capability. Each action, repeated with intention, builds not only competence, but also the credibility that underpins true authority. Inner authority is also shaped by emotional and mental steadiness. Life is unpredictable, full of unexpected challenges, setbacks, and distractions. The person who reacts impulsively, inconsistently, or erratically allows external circumstances to dictate their presence and influence. The person who cultivates consistency, however, develops resilience and stability. Daily habits, repeated choices, and deliberate attention to personal priorities create a steady internal environment. The mind becomes disciplined, the emotions tempered, and decisions informed rather than reactive. Others sense this stability. They recognize not just competence but also reliability, judgment, and calm. Authority is as much about presence as it is about action, and consistency ensures that presence is unshakable, grounded, and persuasive. Consistency also fosters credibility and trust, which are essential components of influence. People naturally respond to those who are reliable, who act in alignment with their word, and who demonstrate the predictability of values through action. Authority built externally through position, titles, or status is fragile if it is not underpinned by consistent behavior. Inner authority, by contrast, is durable because it emerges from the alignment of intention and action repeated over time. It is recognized subtly but profoundly by others, often without formal acknowledgement, because it communicates integrity, commitment, and self-mastery. Each instance of follow-through reinforces this trust. Each act of disciplined consistency strengthens influence, and over time, authority becomes an intrinsic quality rather than a constructed perception. The development of inner authority through consistency also cultivates self-confidence. Confidence built on fleeting success or sporadic achievement is vulnerable and often dependent on external factors. Consistency, however, builds confidence that is durable because it is rooted in repeated proof of capability, self-discipline, and persistence. The individual who honors their commitments, practices their craft daily, and maintains steady habits knows, deep within, that they can rely on themselves. This self-reliance is the core of inner authority. It allows one to act decisively, make difficult decisions, and maintain poise even in uncertainty. Confidence and authority become inseparable, because each repeated act of consistency reinforces the knowledge that one is competent, disciplined, and capable. Consistency also teaches patience and perspective. True authority is not the result of a single victory, a sudden insight, or a moment of inspiration. It is the product of steady, cumulative effort over time. By committing to consistency, individuals learn to measure progress by long-term patterns rather than immediate outcomes. They develop a tolerance for delayed gratification and an understanding that meaningful growth rarely occurs overnight. Each day of disciplined action is a building block. Each repetition, no matter how small, adds to the foundation of authority, competence, and respect. This patient, steady accumulation is what differentiates those who endure and lead from those who only flare brightly and fade quickly. Consistency also fosters alignment between identity and action. People are often conflicted because their behaviors are inconsistent with their values, goals, or intentions. When actions are repeated deliberately, aligned with personal priorities, and performed reliably, identity and behavior converge. Inner authority emerges when the individual embodies their principles in every small choice, in every routine, and in every commitment. It is an unspoken presence, a credibility that requires no explanation because it is evident in every action and every habit. Authority built in this way is internal, enduring, and resistant to the whims of circumstance or opinion.